I think we have to have this conversation as well. And we'll flip things a little bit here on a positive light, and that's Joe Flacco, right? Because what Joe Flacco did in this game is absolutely unbelievable. What Joe Flacco has done since being traded here to the Cincinnati Bengals is absolutely unbelievable, and he deserves a lot of love and a lot of credit for that. All right, I mean, this is what the defense stole from Joe Flacco is really hard to wrap your head around, because they stole not only an all-time game in this franchise, but an all-time type of performance league-wide in the history of the NFL for what Joe Flacco was able to do in this game. 31 of 47, 470, 4 tuds. Right, this is a guy that had a serious injury. We tried to relay to you just how drastic of an injury an AC joint is on your throwing shoulder for a quarterback. Zach was saying after the game that he could hardly hold his arm up throughout the duration of the week. Ted Karras is sitting there saying, yeah, you should have seen it. It's absolutely ridiculous. Well, it's an AC joint. What do you mean see it? You could see it too. It was popping out, and he's sitting there playing through that. Unbelievable that he was able to do it. This is a guy that during warm-ups wasn't even able to go throughout the duration of the warm-up because he wanted to be fully ready to go for the game. Wasn't even able to warm up fully for this game because of that injury. And you saw clearly it was bugging him. He mentioned after the game, funnily enough, it was some of the short throws, the checkdowns, where it was like, oh, that didn't look great. That was kind of weird. And you saw a couple to Chase Brown there. It was like, I mean, he's standing right there and he can't get him the ball. He's in serious, serious pain, right? And he was still able to be accurate with the football, right? Work outside the numbers, work down the seam. Incredible performance from Joe Flacco. Even got hit a time or two in the game as well. So the fact that he was able to go out there and play like this is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, the Bengals, I guess they deserve credit for making the trade. I mean, you could argue it's a no-brainer to just give up a day 3 pick for Joe Flacco, fine, but they went out and did it. And just all-time stuff. And Zach said after the game, this will be remembered forever, his performance out there. And it will be. Now, unfortunately, it'll be remembered from a Bengals standpoint in heartbreaking fashion because you lost the game. But, I mean, just all-time stuff for Joe Flacco. And what he's been able to do for this team over the course of the past few weeks, I mean, it's truly, truly unbelievable. I mean, if the Bengals defense was just bad, right, you go 3-0 over these games, and you're sitting there talking about the Bengals winning this division, right, because you win these past 2 games. If you just had a bad defense, you win these past 2 games. But it's an otherworldly, all-time bad defense for this Bengals, and unfortunately, that's why you have it. Joe Flacco deserves a ton of credit there as well. Couldn't really run the ball, but you found yourself in a shootout, right? The Bengals have been in this spot before many times with Joe Burrow where it's like, well, you know, we're scoring a bunch of points offensively, having great success throwing the football. We can't really afford to just sit here and run it. They ran it at times, when they had to. There was a couple of runs early on in the game from Chase Brown that were productive, but you pretty much had to move off that. But you were having such great success in the pass game where it was fine. And the receivers, man. How good were they in this game? Yoshi, he's been getting a lot of crap for his performance this year, all the drop passes that he has had, and he deserves a lot of the criticism that came his way. But what a great performance from Andrei Iosivas, how he was able to put that behind him, go out there and say, you know what, I'm going to play winning football for my team. And those 5 catches he had were unbelievable, 66 yards, touchdown. Should have been, the biggest moment of his career where he catches that touchdown from Flacco and you go on and you win the game. But obviously your defense isn't able to go out there and get a stop, and that prevents that from happening. Did have the play where he ran out of bounds in the end zone, right? You think it's going to be a touchdown, then Flacco throws the pick. You think the game's over at that point. Obviously it was not. But Yoshi deserves a lot of credit for how he played out there. And there's been a lot of people, myself included, that say get Mitchell Tinsley out there more, get Yoshi off the field. Zac Taylor, he said, we're going to get Tinsley out there a little bit. He had a big catch in the game as well. Only 2 targets. Seemingly when the ball goes his way, he makes a play. But Yoshi really responded in a big way. Was happy for him with his performance out there. T, all-time stuff. What did we say? What did we say in the Jets game? 2 targets for T is unacceptable. Can't happen. Well, he got 9 in this game, and he caught 7 of them, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, that one on the deep ball down the sideline, one of the best catches you'll see this year. Just incredible play from Tee Higgins. Hopefully he's all right. Obviously got banged up at the end of the game, wasn't able to be out there with his teammates throughout the closure of that football game. But just an unbelievable effort from Tee Higgins. Hopefully he's good going forward. That's a guy. Again, Burrow, and Flacco's doing it in the presence of Burrow not being there, but Higgins, Chase, they're going to score points, right? And if you have a good quarterback out there, right, you got an all-time quarterback in Burrow, but this guy, Joe Flacco, at 40 years of age, is playing tremendous. You just need a defense to hang in there, right? Get off the field every once in a while, right? Make a play, make a tackle, make a stop, get a pick, force a fumble. And none of that has happened over the course of the past 2 weeks, or really the past 3 weeks, for the Cincinnati Bengals. Hudson at the tight end spot, Noah Fant. We'll talk about trades here in a second, but they contributed, and everybody really along the offensive side deserves a lot of credit. Jamar, that was like a quiet game for Jamar, and he still had over 100 yards. 8 targets, 6 catches, 111 yards, 18.5 average, and he was tremendous there in the game as well. And the offensive line deserves some credit. You know, we were all sitting here at the beginning of the year talking about the offensive line, how bad it is, right? And they still got to get it figured out, right? Orlando Brown Jr., that guy absolutely stinks. We talked about the guys stinking on the defense. Orlando Brown Jr. is one of your worst players, and you're paying him a ton of money. That's a big, big issue. But how the rest of those guys have developed, we talk about the Bengals asking a lot for their rookies. How about Fairchild and Jalen Rivers? Nobody thought Jalen Rivers would be a starter this year. And he's come in. They've asked him to play tackle. They've asked him to play guard. And he's really doing a good job. He's hanging in there. Maybe he's a guy that you can have as a starter going forward. Look, I get the offensive line is not where you need it to be, right? But when you put a competent quarterback back there, and that obviously is what Joe Flacco is, you're having some success. That ball's coming out. They're doing a nice job. They're running the football a little bit better. The offensive line and the improvement that they have shown from week 1 to now is drastic. And they deserve some credit for that. And that makes you feel a little bit optimistic, right? Because this team and this franchise is all Joe Burrow and his availability out there. And how they've played in recent weeks, that gives you a little bit more confidence that things might be okay on that side going forward. Orlando Brown Jr., you need a left tackle. You put Mims over there on the left side going forward. I don't know. We'll see. I don't see a world where Orlando Brown Jr. can come back as the left tackle of this team. Drastic change needs to happen as it relates to your personnel, as it relates to your coaching, as it relates to your executives in your front office. Orlando Brown Jr.'s got to go. But the other 4 guys, Karras has bounced back nicely. You got 2 rookie guards playing solid football. Mims is good. It's just about him staying healthy. We all understand that. They've made some significant improvements. Scott Peters, we were banging on him for the majority of this year. He's done a nice job. Unfortunately for them, the defensive issues have masked any improvement that they've made. But Scott Peters, Zac Taylor along the offensive line, the rookies that are in there contributing, that's been solid, and that gives you a little bit of optimism there on the offensive side. Because, again, you have Tee Higgins, you have Jamar Chase. Now all of a sudden you got some protection there up front from your offensive line. It's going to be a force to be reckoned with throughout the course of the next few years. But the defense, of course, is what is holding you back. So I did want to show a little bit of love there offensively. And again, Zac Taylor deserves some credit for that. I think his game plan offensively has been tremendous over the course of the past few weeks. Now, I think the one thing that could potentially save Zac Taylor, if anything, and he's done a great job calling the plays. He really has. But he has always struggled, and anybody would probably struggle with this as well. Or not anybody. I mean, there's people, Reed and McVay and Shanahan, they don't really struggle. But look, to call the plays and be the head coach is difficult. It is. And I think we've talked about him passing off the play calling for quite some time. I think if he is going to stay here as the head coach of the Bengals in 26, again, most people watching this don't want that to be the case. But if he is, he's got to put more of his time and energy into the defense, right? Because I think Zac Taylor, during his career here in Cincinnati, was that, I'm going to work with the quarterback. I'm going to work with Joe, Andy the first year, right? And I'm going to work with the offense, installing the game plan, and put all of my time into the offense. And Lou, he's got the defense. And this year it was, Al Golden, he knows what he's doing. He's got the defense there as well. That can't happen. That can't happen. I don't want to just sit here and make collegiate comparisons, but look at Ohio State. Ryan Day called the plays, and he was fine calling the plays, right? And that's a big reason why he got the job, probably the number one reason why he got the job, because he was a great play caller. But after some self-scouting and after realizing that, you know what, yeah, we're winning a bunch of games, and yeah, we're still good on offense, and I'm doing a fine job, it's holding us back a little bit because the defense needs a little bit more of my attention. And Ryan Day is an offensive guy. He took over that more CEO type, designated the play calling elsewhere, and look at Ohio State. Win the national title last year, and they look like world beaters again this year. I think that could help Zac Taylor a little bit. Like, you know what? You've done a fine job. We sit here and we criticize your run game. Fine. We pick you apart sometimes for your play calls in big situations like we would for anybody, right? But if you really want to lead this team, right, and be the head coach here and somebody that you can trust, maybe you got to give the play calling to someone else. Right. Now, we'll see if he even has that opportunity or if they decide to move off him or not. But I think that would be a good decision for the Bengals and Zac Taylor going forward if they ultimately decided to do that. Look, I understand. I'm not naive. I know most people listening to this think it's crazy that I'm suggesting that Zac Taylor should potentially get another opportunity. Let me be very clear here. Look, If the Bengals fire Zac Taylor and we're sitting here doing this show tomorrow, I'm not going to raise an uprising, right, that they fired Zac Taylor. Again, most teams in this spot would make this decision. But where you're at as an organization with the core that you have in place, that was all built around obviously Joe Burrow, Tee Higgins, and Jamar Chase, but also Zac Taylor was a part of that there as well. And I just think that if you move off the head coach, but you keep the core in place, because I don't think anybody should be suggesting that you move off Higgins, Chase, or Burrow. If you're doing that, then I can't help you at that point. If you're making those kind of comments, I can't help you at that point. And I just think you bring in a new guy, there's going to be growing pains with that. And look, maybe they need growing pains. Maybe they need drastic change from a head coach perspective. Maybe they do. But I just think it sets you back a little bit too far. But look, this thing isn't over yet. We're all sitting here talking about the season as if it's over, right? Pittsburgh, New England, Baltimore, Buffalo, Baltimore, Miami, Arizona, Cleveland, right? If you lose all those games, then I'm going to sit up here and say, well, you got to change who's the head coach, all right? But just going into the bye without your quarterback, tough situation to be in. Ultimately.